2005, we did see documents, I think, much more heavily negotiated than we had in the earlier phases. And again, to the point we're making, it's a different pool of people who are coming in. And I think one of the things, we had a lot of discussions about was around access timing, actually. And I wonder if some of that has stemmed a little bit from, people who've, historically had Seg-IA arrangements, and those Seg-IA arrangements, it was very much driven, sort of as soon as my dealer defaults, I need to kind of yank back the IA that I've posted. Whereas for regulatory margin, first of all, it's two-way. So the terms very much are often kind of symmetrical. And secondly, the way I look at it is that this is the whole point, it's segregated, and that we have these segregation opinions, that it's protected there, right? So the idea that people really are trying to push the boundaries, kind of saying, as soon as I send in a notice, the collateral is released back. And I don't know, if you want to talk about control and
creates all sorts of fun legal issues around if you give either party the ability to access the IM before you even know whether it needs to be used for the purpose that we've actually stuck it in the account for, then it kind of raises issues around, is it fulfilling the regulatory obligation? Actually, if the trigger for returning of the collateral, is that compatible with insolvency rules? In the EU and the UK, we talk about the financial collateral regulations that actually mean that you have much more ready access to the collateral, but you need to have possession or control. If the collateral giver can just whip the assets away, actually, does the collateral taker have the requisite degree of control? So it's the kind of thing that lawyers get a bit excited about, as you can tell. But yeah, it is important, because it's not only a point that people view as a commercially important point. There are some legal ramifications that sit behind.
And also, I think, from a negotiation point of view, the minimum transfer amount, it sounds very basic, but you've got 500,000 as a maximum limit. So you've got to balance it between your VM MTA and your IM MTA. Yeah. So we do see people changing that quite a lot and negotiating that, because VM is obviously, there's no threshold, there's daily margin calls, whereas in IM you've got the tri-party agent, or you've got the calculation in place. It's also around what happens in the default, like you were saying with the assets. So the different options as well. So that's what we see heavily negotiated on the buy side. And lastly, it's the independent amounts. What do you do around what we call kind of independent amounts? Do you go with the greater of, allocated, distinct approach? The three different approaches, what you do. So again, there's a lot of education about those three approaches, and there are pros and cons.